We'll find a Friday or Saturday. Drinks are on
This
me.
meeting is being recorded.
This meeting is being recorded, Steve.
Yes,
Told you
sir.
it's being recorded. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Forward Maryland. I'm Bill Woodcock.
And I'm Steve Hunt. Hopefully everybody's having a good weekend. And I've got to start out, Bill, by, I'm in my normal basement and stately Hunt manner. But you've got some scenery behind you. I know it's a beautiful day out. I've been outside, but where you at, bro?
Oh, so now it's you with the cheeky question. I see how this works. I am at the illustrious Columbia Lakefront. Once the center of entertainment, nightlife, and artful commerce in the new city. Now, not so much. A lot of that activity has gone to the Meriwether district. There is still the whole, and which is just, what would it just be? Just southeast of here. And then we still boast on the lakefront the Whole Foods. I'm sitting in front of the former Clyde's property. There's still the sushi restaurant here. There is the headquarters of the nonprofit group, The Third, here, although I've never really seen it open. But I think they're there. And I hear they do good work. I just want to see it open. But apparently the plan is by our Howard Hughes corporate overlords here in Columbia that there's going to be a complex here, some sort of a medical complex connected to Howard County General Hospital and Johns Hopkins that will occupy this entire building. I've also heard rumblings of new restaurant tenants that will be announced soon. But they ought to get to stepping on the soon, because there's a lot of people in Columbia and Howard County land who think that the lakefront is being ignored. But I'm not ignoring the lakefront, Steve. I care about the lakefront. I love the lakefront. That's why I'm here. And that's why I'm telling all you people out there in viewer and listener land, we want you to come to the Columbia lakefront.
Yeah. It really is a great place. It really is. I've been there many times. There's nothing like a walk around Lake Kittamaqundi on a nice late summer day. And to your point, I hope that the overlords, as you call them, and appropriately so, at the Howard Hughes Corp don't get so obsessed with their little shiny new toy that they forget about what I believe is truly a jewel in Columbia and Howard County, and quite frankly could be a destination point for the state of Maryland for folks in the Baltimore region, maybe even the Washington region, if it were done right. So I'm with you on that. Love the lakefront.
Steve, it was only several short years ago. I think you remember this when Money Magazine itself had on its cover our current county executive and his lovely family sitting on a park bench, not doing aqualung, but sitting on a park bench and at the lakefront, just enjoying a Chamber of Commerce 75-degree sunny day. And wow, it was vibrant, Steve, vibrant.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Now it's kind of not really vibrating, just kind of oscillating.
Hey, story for everybody out there. I proposed to my now wife on one of those benches at Lake Kittamaqundi after having lunch on her birthday many moons ago. That was the kind of thing you did, because it was a cool place to have a meal, walk around the lake, and I decided, hey, stop at a bench and drop to the knee. So you're right.
You decided right there.
Did it right there.
It wasn't a pre-planned thing. You just went for it.
Well, I've been toting the ring around for several weeks, so it was just a matter of when to just drop it, and it just felt right. So I did, and luckily she didn't embarrass the hell out of me.
This is what Howard County should be all about. Not all this mamby-pamby. I don't want my kids to go to this school with these people who are darker than me. This is what Howard County is about. You just go for it, damn it. You want something, you go for it. And I mean, go for it.
Hey, I was hanging on for dear life until she said yes, which I guess takes us into today's topic.
Indeed, it does. And
Hanging on and
speaking of
going for
hanging
it.
on for dear life, we are 3 days away from the 22 primary election here in the great state of Maryland. And even since our last riveting podcast episode, there have been many new developments in races statewide. Early voting has happened. And, some candidates were certainly stronger than others in making appearances at the early voting sites statewide. And also, mail-in voting has ended. So now it's all over, but the actual getting out to the polls. And so there will be results election night. It looks like the mail-in ballots may not be counted until at least the end of the month. So, but what we wanted to present to you, and we will talk about that later. But first, we wanted to talk about some candidates who are finishing strong. Their kick is good. They seem to be trying to run through the tape, and some who just seem to be hanging on. So I think, Steve, we'll kind of talk about a couple from each side here.
Yep.
And so the first one I want to bring up is Attorney General candidate Anthony Brown. I did not. As if you tuned into our last show, I am not picking Anthony Brown to win the Attorney General's nomination. I'm still sticking with that pick. However, the best commercial I saw yet to advocate Anthony Brown's candidacy came out in the last week from the group Vote Vets. So it did not speak only as to candidate or Congressman Brown's record as a military attorney and litigator in the federal government, but it also took to task Katie Curran O'Malley's mention, which I think you laid in on, Steve, last week about Anthony Brown is a good congressman. He just doesn't know anything about law.
Yeah,
I think it really stated a good, but overarchingly, Steve, the ad makes a terrific case as to why Anthony Brown should be the next Attorney General. I mean, for the Brown campaign, you have to wish this would have come out 2 months ago. You want to reflect on that one, Steve, or do you want to tell me about somebody else totally different?
Well, I'll touch on that one very quickly, but I think that number one, you're right. I'm sure if you're the Brown people, you wish it would have came out either before or instead of the one with Mr. and Mrs. Brown, which we talked about last week as a commercial.
That one was a clown show.
Yeah. And I always find it funny that some of the outside groups do a much better job advocating for a candidate than the candidate campaign themselves, because I think that Vote Vets was a much better ad than I think anything that came out of the Brown camp this entire cycle. So it hits hard. It's veterans. I mean, if you're Anthony Brown, you need to make a phone call and say, thank you for keeping me in the game and giving me a shot at this. I did pick Anthony Brown, and I still believe that he's closing well enough, or Curran O'Malley is not, that this race could get interesting. Moving over to the governor's race, one that I want to talk about, and it might be several people. Peter Franchot continues to hang in there and hold on. I don't think he's doing anything epic to close the show. I got a very interesting mailer from I forget the name of the interest group, but it was, Peter Franchot is a wolf in sheep's clothing, basically saying he's not a real Democrat. And, they got into all the stuff about his ties to Hogan and all of that stuff. So people are certainly still going after the comptroller. I still think he's hanging on and hanging in there. I'm not changing my pick for him to win. But he seems to be hanging on. John King's campaign seems to be stumbling a little bit, or at least wobbling. There's some allegations about his management style, the environment within his campaign. He's actually really going hard after Wes Moore. There seems to be a sense that John King's mission in life now is to keep Wes Moore from winning the nomination. So there seems to be a little turbulence within the King campaign. And, Wes Moore just keeps racking up endorsements. Dutch Rupersberger, close to home here, another one in the Moore camp. There's going to be a lot of people either happy that they were with the winner, or they're going to have some serious Old Bay coated egg on their face after going all in behind a newcomer as Peter Franchot walks into the governor's mansion. So, Bill, I threw a lot out there, but what do you got on the governor's race? Holding on or closing strong?
I think it's an interesting bag, and I think the first person I want to talk about, and I want to get to the candidates you mentioned, but the first one I'm going to mention is Tom Perez, who just seems to keep doing what he's doing. I haven't seen any closing argument ad come out from him. I did get a piece of mail from the Perez campaign in the last week, which, considering as I'm a super Dem voter, I was very happy for. And, the Obama ad seems, I think it stepped up in airplay a little bit, but, still, not that closing argument ad, which the Moore and Franchot campaigns have come out with. So, does that mean that, Perez is running out of money and is holding on? Or does it mean that he's firming up his vote because he thinks that the vote is going to be split up so many other ways? We'll find out with great certainty, although not full certainty, on Tuesday. The Franchot campaign, the thing I will note most about the Franchot campaign is their closing argument seems to be multimodal. So I've gotten two pieces of mail from the Franchot campaign in the past week. Both, I've not gotten any negative Franchot mail from any opponents or any other interest groups. And what I notice most is that when I look at the social media posts of friends of mine from across the state, there's always a Franchot worker there. There's always somebody handing out Franchot stuff. There's always signs. Sometimes there's the candidate himself. And so, he seems to be finishing strong. He seems to be kicking through the tape. Also, he does have a closing argument ad that, shows the 40-something, maybe even 30-something Peter Franchot, the freshman legislator who was one of the most progressive members of the Maryland General Assembly, which he was when he was in the House. So I would say he's definitely closing strong, as is Wes Moore, who pulled the celebrity card and had no less than Oprah Winfrey voiceover and ad for him, even so cited on the ad itself. She voiced over the Wes Moore closing argument ad. So I think those three are going at it in different ways. Does the strategy, my fairly educated guess tells me that what we're seeing is maybe more of that Perez is going into that third place slot, and then it's going to be more of a more Franchot race as it gets down to the wire. But we'll see what happens when they count the votes. I agree with you about the King race campaign. I think that one is, I don't even know if they're just holding on. I think they're leaking oil, and they're just going to go behind the garage wall and just, pop the hood and just call it a day. I don't really see a path for that campaign to work, although possibly a path for them to do better, as I said last week, than would be predicted. But I think now the governor's race is down to maybe 2.5 horses. There is still, I think, a way for Perez to win. I was talking to people yesterday and today who are Maryland voters who they're like, oh my God, I haven't even known that there were all these candidates for running for governor. How do I choose? So if there are a good number of those voters out there and they do their research, a good portion of that could break Perez's way. But so I do see a path for him, but I think most likely, if I had to put money on it,
Yeah.
I would say it's going to either be Franchot or Moore at this point.
Yeah. Can I ask you two things, Bill, just from a really a strategist standpoint? Because you touched on two things that I think that need to be, maybe a little bit of a deeper dive into for a second or two. One is the more voiceover ad with Oprah Winfrey. And the question there is, does that backfire? Does that feel like it's too much Hollywood, too much coastal elite, Westmore, too much latte liberal for the folks, Democrats on the Eastern Shore, Southern Maryland, Western Maryland, basically outside the Baltimore-Washington corridor? And I just wonder if that might have the opposite of the intended effect. And then the second thing that you touched on about the Franchot campaign, and I've seen it too, friends of ours who are running for office doing Facebook, Instagram, other social media posts with them holding, their lit and Franchot lit. I'm not seeing, candidates walking around with their lit and Westmore lit, or their lit and Tom. I see, and maybe it's because of the people I follow, but I'm not seeing as much candidates knocking doors with other gubernatorial candidates lit in their hand. So just touch on those two things, if you would.
Well, so to the second thing, I mean, I've seen people, I mean, not here in Howard County, but I have seen people, again, folks who are campaigning for office in Baltimore County, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, also carrying, their lit and Westmore lit, or their lit and Brooke Learman or Tim Adams lit. So I am seeing that. I do think that, the most visible show of campaign allegiance are the people who are allied with the Franchot campaign, which I think that is a conscious strategy. That's not a lazy strategy of, let's just, pawn this stuff off on whoever so we don't have to conjure up that many workers. This is a conscious strategy, because if Franchot wins the primary, he's going to need to have all that grassroots support. As we talked about last week, the Democratic establishment is not for Peter Franchot. It is for Wes Moore. And there is, there's a reasonable assumption that if Kelly Schultz is the Republican nominee, some of these mainstream Democrats may just decide to sit it out and see whatever happens happen. Because if they've had Hogan for 8 years, well, they can deal with Schultz for another 4 years, or maybe even 8. I think that's a dangerous and stupid strategy, but I have known Maryland Democrats to be very stupid. So I can see that happening. Getting to your first point about, more not, with the Oprah Winfrey angle, I would agree. But I also would say that I don't think, to something else we talked about in prior episodes, Wes Moore is not catering to those Democrats on the Eastern Shore and in Western Maryland, probably not even, those in far Southern Maryland either. He's going for the 95 corridor. And he's guessing that in the 95 corridor, Oprah Winfrey's endorsement has cachet, and that it does meet with it does appeal to those white collar, higher income level demographic Democrats. And to that note, I mean, I saw a news story on cable news the past week that did a fairly deep dive into general tendencies within the Democratic Party, that the Democratic Party is becoming more of a college-educated, white, upper middle class party, due to all the appeal to suburban voters. Whereas working class people of all colors are starting to become more identified with the Republican Party. So, I think both cases, Moore and Franchot, are looking at trends. They're looking at what's going to get them elected. And, both schools of thought have a lot of support. It will be fascinating to see which one carries the day.
Right. Yeah. It definitely.
So, Steve, let's talk about some people who are laming out.
Yes, let's do it.
Who do you see is leaking oil? You know, they've got their radiators busted. They got steam coming from under the hood. They're just kind of gasping, choking, squealing, hope that they can make it to the finish line ahead of the other guy or gal.
Well, this is nothing new. We've talked about the Republican side of the gubernatorial race for a while, and I don't think any of us have been flattering when it comes to one Kelly Schultz. But I just feel like there's just no there. I know she's running ads now, so there are signs of life from that campaign, at least in the form of they're at least running ads, so they still exist. But I'm just not feeling closing speed there. And part of it, to be honest, we talked about it last week, is Larry Hogan's checked out. He has officially and completely checked out. He's in New Hampshire, trying to, see if he has a presidential bid out there. So, when your main man, when the guy who, you're supposed to be carrying on his legacy is like, yeah, I'm out of here. That's a problem. And again, it's a fascinating race because it's not that Dan Cox is doing anything good. If anything, he's doing himself a ton of harm and make it. I don't know how you can make yourself more unelectable and disliked than the campaign of Mr. Cox has done. And yet, there he is. He's still flipping there. With an assist now from the Democratic Governors Association, which is trying to pull I call it a Claire McCaskill, putting money to try to get Dan Cox over the line to make sure that there's not a Kelly Schultz on the other side of the ledger in the fall. But yeah, the Schultz campaign, not that there's ever been a there, but it just looks worse as you go along, and you think there's got to be something better that they've got to get this person over the finish line. Bill, what do you got?
Well, I'm telling you, I mean, I wanted to get, first off, we fell over, but
there you go.
We're back now. But I mean, as you know, I wanted to get Kelly Schultz on the podcast. I was looking forward to having her on the podcast. I'm sorry that she didn't, accept or respond to our invitation. Maybe things will change after the primary if she wins. But, I think she's maybe one of the most well-qualified people in state government to ever run for the governor's mansion, having served in both the legislature and in the executive branch. She has a very compelling personal story. But that said, the public presentation of her campaign has been, shall we say, wanting. So, she had a little bit of a W when she showed up at a recent, I think, housing forum in Baltimore to debate, I guess, a number of the Democratic candidates. The organization had invited everybody. And I think the most prominent Democrat she got to share the stage with was indeed John King. I know Francho, Moore, Perez all decided to skip out, which I think was a mistake on all their parts.
Oh, and King certainly mentioned that.
Yeah, and also, but you mentioned a few good things. So, Larry Hogan's not just in New Hampshire. He was in Kennebunkport, Maine last week, visiting with W. Bush and Laura. So I guess, going to kiss that ring and getting advice and wisdom, such as that might be. But the Schultz campaign, so still, that elusive closing argument, Kelly Schultz and Larry Hogan, if you liked what I did for 8 years, you're going to love Kelly Schultz. Where the hell is that? I mean, This woman served as secretary of two of the largest, the two largest departments in the state of Maryland. Where is that ad? We don't see that ad. He still has high approval ratings. Where is that ad? This is not O'Malley and Brown. This is actually, this is a popular governor. Where's that ad? Still missing it. It's a little late for it now. So, but what her closing argument ad was, or I guess is stupid. So it's her in front of a bunch of cutouts of the Democratic candidates for governor and Joe Biden. And it's typical Republican primary dogma about liberals, tax and spend. Joe Biden caused all the inflation. And then her closing line is, when I'm governor, I'm going to take the fight to them. Count on it. Well, dumb ass ad. Why? Because first off, you pointed all your Democratic rivals. I'm going to take the fight to them. There is no fight to take to them, you dope, because you're
Right.
the governor. So there is no fight to take to Peter Franchot, John King, Wes Moore, Ralph Jaffe, or John Barron. You're the governor. There is no fight. So, y'all should be worrying about more in that case, Brooke Learman or John Olszewski or Calvin Ball or any one of a number of Democrats who will be itching for a fight come 26. And as to President Biden, I tend to think that you probably won't have Joe Biden to kick around for much longer either, seeing as about 80% of Democrats now think he shouldn't run again in 24. Joe is apparently still within that 18% who think that he does, but, fist bumping MBS ain't going to get him there, that's for sure. And so that's one stupid thing Kelly Schultz did. The other stupid thing Kelly Schultz did was she called upon Dan Cox to renounce the Democratic Governors Association ads. Dan Cox is stupid, but my God, he's not that stupid. Dan Cox is in no position to renounce the DGA's ads. They have nothing to do with him. It's the Democratic Governors Association. So what's he supposed to say? No, I don't like them putting my name out there and spending their Democratic money to say that I'm the Trump endorsed candidate. I mean, if you didn't know it was from the DGA, I mean, it would seem like Dan Cox's ad dream come true.
Yeah.
To say
I hate free money.
Yeah. Why does he hate probably hundreds of thousands of dollars of free press? So Kelly, tend to think that you have other things to do and better things to be spending these last days on. But God bless you. I hope it works out for you, but part of me says it won't. Somebody who I know and respect very well and is a former state delegate named Don Murphy, who used to represent Baltimore and Howard counties. And his prediction was that if this is a low turnout election, it's a Cox win. A high turnout election, it's a Schultz win. And I run with that. And I think the turnout will be on the low side.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing is, the Schultz ad, I'm a fighter. I mean, I just want to know who are you selling that to? Are you selling it to the base of the Republican Party? Sorry, you're running against Mr. January 6th. There's no more fighter than the guy who is trying to support the overthrow of the government and the overturning of a free and fair election.
Indeed, this is true.
So you're not selling it to your base because your base doesn't want you to no. And the Hogan Republicans, you already got them, however many of them are actually going to vote. So that's the other question. When I look at an ad, I always ask myself the question, risk and reward. What's the risk? How bad can it be if it goes south? Versus what can you really get out of this ad? What is this ad going to move the needle to the point you take the risk? And the Schultz ad was not going to move the needle. It was just going to make people like us say that was a dumb ad. So, the other race I want to talk about really quickly, Bill, and this will be really quick because we talked about who's closing strong and who's hanging on. And I got to give a shout out to Brooke Learman and Tim Adams, who are both closing strong, who have both run really good campaigns, who are both highly qualified individuals who would make excellent comptrollers of the great state of Maryland. Now, we both have Learman. Rich Elliott has Learman. I think we all have very good and valid and solid reasons and I think that our predictions will come to pass at the end of the day when the votes are counted. But I just wanted to put that out there for those two campaigns, and well done by both of you. Well run, done the right way. Somebody unfortunately is going to have to lose the thing, but there's no debates of strong versus holding on. Both doing well all the way to the finish line.
Boy, oh boy, thank you for bringing that up, Steve, because I couldn't agree more. Last week, I was bracing for the ad that mentioned that, Brooke Lehrman is the daughter of Terry Lehrman, former Democratic Party chair and major developer and, political insider, blah, 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 blah. Or the ad that talked about, Tim Adams's, failed businesses, because often to be a successful businessman, you also have to have businesses fail. Oh, yeah. And any other misstep that Tim Adams may have had in his life. I'm not even aware of his private life, so I don't really know what those might be. Mm-hmm. But no, this campaign has been run on the high ground. It's been run on vision. It's been run on thoughtfulness. There's a clear distinction as to what each of the two candidates would focus on. I do believe it's advantage Lehrman because, she's the more well-networked and from the get-go, she was the more known quantity. Even though neither of their name recognition was particularly high at the start, and I would dare say they probably still aren't very high. But no, it's been a classy campaign for comptroller, and this is why you run a classy primary campaign. It shows that it can happen. And nobody, the net effect is that nobody is looking at Barry Glassman as a viable alternative. Whereas even with like I just said, with some of the negativity and some of the bad vibes that Dems have about some of the other candidates, some people are already looking at, maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing if Schultz became the governor. So yeah. No, this was a well done race. Steve, the last thing.
Let me do one last thing real quick, Bill, just to dovetail off that. Whichever Democrat happens to win the governor's mansion, there's speaking of Kelly Schultz, there is a position called the Commerce Secretary. I'm going to give you two recommendations off the top of my head: the loser of the comptroller race and Laura Newman. There's my recommended short list to the next Democratic governor of Maryland. One of those two would make a hell of a commerce secretary. So, Bill, just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, well, and the other one should probably have a role too. And then we also mentioned Ajwani Jain as a future cabinet member in a D administration. So who knows what happens? Yep. Steve, the last thing I want to talk about is this stupidity about the mail-in voting. So here's what we get when we elect a Republican governor, folks, because this is executive action that controls over the State Board of Elections. Yep. So in 2020, when the entire election was run by mail, almost, the governor kept polling places open because he claimed the state constitution mandated that there be polling places and that the election be carried out, and that in-person voting must always remain available. Not sure I totally agree with that interpretation, but that's how it was interpreted. But I knew that my mail-in ballot in 2020 was going to be counted and recorded and in the tally by Election Day. Now I'm not so sure, because I understand that now the State Board of Elections has deemed that the early votes, which have been collected and should be being counted, like even now as we speak, that those tallies may not be available in total until the 29th. And with so many close elections, including both gubernatorial primaries, that may not even be decided until those votes are counted, doesn't this policy just seem stupid? Because it does to me.
It is colossally stupid. And from what I was reading, and I might have the dates wrong, but you have until as long as your mail-in ballot is postmarked by primary day on the 19th, it will be counted. The counts, I believe, are going to start either the next day, the 20th, or the 21st, and they will be counted through the 29th. So you literally could get your mail-in ballot in postmarked on the 19th, and if it shows up after the 19th, it will be counted all the way up until the 29th. So for some of the close races, and we have some here locally, but you mentioned the gubernatorial race on both sides, it could be August before we know who the nominees are in a lot of these races. And to your point about this is what happens when you get a Republican governor. Whatever they did for 2020, because we were, oh, by the way, in the middle of a global pandemic, made it work. Votes got counted. The state legislature decided they were going to pass a bill that would pretty much codify this into practice, that would allow for the early counts. One, Lawrence J. Hogan Jr. vetoed it. And so we are stuck with what I call the Pennsylvania model, where, as you remember from the presidential election of 2020, the election was on Tuesday. It was, I believe, Saturday afternoon before we got a declared Pennsylvania winner, and therefore who was going to win the whole ball of wax. As opposed to Florida, for all you can say about Florida, and Lord knows I've got a lot to say about Governor DeSantis and his friends, they count early. So on election night, because you have the early votes counted, you have the mail-in votes counted, and you have the election day results being tabulated, and it's done. So this is the mess that we're in. We're in the mess because of Larry Hogan. And oh, by the way, the reason Pennsylvania was in its mess was because of the situation that they had at the time with their governor at the time and their legislature at the time. And basically it was the Republicans. So message to people who want to stay on the fence about, Biden this and, we're not getting that delivered. This is one of the fundamental differences between Democrats and Republicans. Clearly, Democrats want free, fair elections where if you can vote, you can vote. If you're eligible to vote, you can vote. More people should be eligible than are eligible, and making it easier so that the will of the people is a strong number and a strong will of said people. Whereas Republicans want to control it so that they can engineer their own results. And that's me on my soapbox. I am done, but it's horrible. The idea that we have to wait until literally August to know who won the primaries is just pathetic, on top of what we already have that's got us into a situation where we're having a primary in the dead of July in the first place.
Yeah. And I know that there are people out there who are like, well, the primary in Maryland used to be in September, so it's still a longer primary season than that. But damn it, there are reasons why it was changed to April, because the general election season was too short to go from after Labor Day, to be 7 weeks long, which is what it used to be. So now, if indeed some of these races can't be, a winner can't be determined before all these votes are counted, now we're back to like an 11, 12-week general election campaign, which is just chock full of ridiculousnesses. It's unnecessary. And you're right, we're the Pennsylvania model, but we don't have a John Fetterman, damn it. I want John. I mean, can we somehow get John Fetterman to run against Van Hollen? Because I vote for that dude.
Bill, I don't know if you've seen some of this on social media, but I would want Fetterman just for his troll game. The trolling he is doing
he has
on
great
Dr.
trolls
Oz,
on Dr. Oz.
His trolls are next level. I don't know if you saw the one this week where, Dr. Oz decides to. Yeah, and then one of the cheesesteak places, I think Pat's, joined Fetterman's troll and dumped on. You want to talk about being posterized, and John Fetterman being 6'9", this is an appropriate analogy. He is straight Duncan gangster style on Dr. Oz. Yeah, I want me some Fetterman down here, baby.
All right, so for those who don't know, John Fetterman, the Democratic nominee for governor in Pennsylvania, the current lieutenant governor, posted I think it was a Twitter post of Dr. Oz, the Republican candidate, responded to him, because Dr. Oz was showing himself at the famous Pat's and Gino's cheesesteaks in South Philly, with something about, we need to protect the small businesses like Pat's and Gino's, and was able to enjoy their delicious cheesesteaks. And John Fetterman's troll was, well, this is it. Dr. Oz, glad to see Dr. Oz is doing what all tourists of Pennsylvania do. It was beautiful because, of course, a key line of argument against Dr. Oz is that he's carpetbagging from New Jersey, which he is. But holy for holy, that was glorious. Why do we have that? See, we don't have that in Maryland. We have no trolling.
And Oz's whole thing in front of the cheesesteaks, man of the people, quite frankly, gave me Michael Dukakis and a tank vibe.
Yes, because he had his dress shirt on and his hair was TV perfect. And you didn't see him take a bite into either one. I mean, the man looks like a rail. I don't know when the last time he's eaten a cheesesteak has been, if ever. He's probably back there with John Kerry asking if you could put Swiss on it.
And by the way, the dunking continued because Snooki from Jersey Shore did a tweet basically, giving props to Dr. Oz, saying, we're proud of you. We're proud of our New Jersey favorite son. And it was all about, the fact that he lives in Jersey. So the what's going on up there? I love this. I want this here. You're right. Fetterman, carpet bag down here to Maryland. I will take you to Jimmy's Famous Seafood and load you up with everything covered in Old Bay for life. Please.
That dude looks like he could hang at Jimmy's Famous.
That's what I'm talking about. Come to the Famous, baby. Bring it, John. You were that dude.
and on that note, we close another edition of Forward Maryland. We will not be with you next week because Steve Hunt is going on vacation. Will we be with you the week after that? Stay tuned. Possibly. But we will definitely be with you the week after that. So we are going to go on a 2, possibly 3-week hiatus as of now. And so we wish you and yours a happy and healthy weekend, a happy primary day. We will all look at the results with bated breath, and hopefully by the time we come back to you, we'll know who won. So
if you haven't, get out there and vote. You still can. If you have a mail-in ballot, because I understand there's a lot of them that have been mailed and not returned, get that sucker back. And primary day, I think it's still on the 19th, unless something else happens, because Lord knows with this cycle. Get out there and vote, people.
And as if we need something else to think about, literally a notice I just got on my phone was that no less a person than Tucker Carlson at a Republican dinner in Iowa mentioned the possibility that they might run for president in 2024. Joy to the world. And on that hopeful note, for Steve Hunt, I'm Bill Woodcock. You have been watching or listening to another edition of Forward Maryland. God help us all, and take care, everybody. Bye now. Trying to stop recording. Wait a minute.